The lantern swayed in Logan Anderson's hand as he pushed open the barn door that November night in 1876, expecting nothing more than his mare's soft nickering, but instead found a pair of terrified green eyes staring back at him from behind a stack of hay bales. He froze, his other hand instinctively moving toward the rifle he had left in the house. But something about the way those eyes glistened with unshed tears made him pause. A woman emerged slowly from her hiding spot, her dark hair tangled with straw, her dress torn at the sleeve, and her hands held up in a gesture that was part surrender, part plea. "Please don't send me back," she whispered, her voice cracking on the last word. Logan's mind raced through a dozen possibilities in the span of a heartbeat. Denver was growing fast, attracting all kinds of people, and with that growth came trouble. But this woman, trembling in his barn with desperation etched into every line of her face, did not look like trouble. She looked terrified. "Back where?" he asked, keeping his voice low and steady, the way he would with a spooked horse. She flinched at the question, wrapping her arms around herself. "To him, to my husband. Please, I know I'm trespassing, and I'll leave if you want, but please just don't tell anyone you saw me." Logan set the lantern down on a barrel, giving himself time to think. He was 30 years old, had been working his ranch outside Denver for 5 years now, and had learned to trust his instincts. Every instinct he had was telling him that this woman was running from something terrible. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then seemed to decide that honesty might be her best chance. Nora Preston. "I'm Logan Anderson. This is my ranch." He studied her more carefully now. Even in the dim light, he could see the bruise darkening her left cheekbone, partially hidden by her hair. His jaw tightened. "Did he do that to you?" Nora's hand flew to her face, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded, unable to speak. Logan had seen plenty of hard things in his life. He had lost his parents to cholera when he was 19, had fought off rustlers, had survived 2 brutal Colorado winters when he had barely had enough firewood or food. But something about seeing this woman's pain struck him differently. It made his chest ache in a way he had not experienced before. "Come up to the house," he said. "You look half frozen, and you need food." "I can't," Nora said quickly. "If someone sees me, they'll tell Thomas. He has friends all over Denver. He'll find me, and then he'll kill me. He promised he would if I ever tried to leave again." "Again?" Logan's voice hardened. "You've tried before?" "3 times, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "The first time, I only made it to the edge of town before his brother caught me. The second time, I got as far as Golden, but someone recognized me and sent word. The third time was 2 weeks ago. I thought I had planned it perfectly. I saved money from the household funds, bought a train ticket to Cheyenne, but he found out before I could leave. That's when he did this." She gestured to her face, then slowly pulled back the torn sleeve of her dress. Logan felt his stomach turn. Her arm was mottled with bruises in various stages of healing, yellows and purples and sickening greens. Some were clearly from fingers gripping too hard. Others looked like she had been struck with something. "That's why I can't go anywhere public," Nora continued. "He'll be looking for me. He left for a business trip to Colorado Springs yesterday morning. I knew it was my only chance. I waited until dark, took nothing but the clothes on my back, and ran. I've been walking for hours. I saw your barn, and I just needed to rest for a few minutes. But then it started getting dark, and I was so tired, and I thought maybe I could just stay one night before moving on." Logan's mind was working through the situation. Thomas Preston. The name rang a bell, and not a pleasant one. If he was remembering correctly, Thomas Preston was a banker in Denver, came from old money back east, had made a name for himself in the city's growing financial sector. He was the kind of man who wore expensive suits and had influential friends. The kind of man who could make trouble for a rancher who interfered with his marriage. But Logan had never been one to back down from doing what was right, just because it might be difficult. "You can stay," he said. "Not in the barn, though. It's going to drop below freezing tonight. You'll come up to the house." "But I said someone might see." "My ranch is 2 miles outside of town. My nearest neighbor is half a mile east, and old Jim Henderson minds his own business. No one's going to see you here." Logan picked up the lantern again. "Come on, you need to eat, and we need to figure out what to do next." Nora looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "You're really going to help me? You don't even know me. I know enough, Logan said simply. A man who beats his wife deserves to lose her. Now come on, before we both freeze out here. She followed him out of the barn, staying close as they walked across the yard to his house. It was a modest structure, 2 stories with a wide porch that Logan had built himself. Inside, the main room served as both kitchen and living area, with a stone fireplace that Logan had been grateful for during the harsh winters. He had left a fire burning before he had gone out to check on the horses, and the warmth hit them as soon as they stepped inside. Nora stood just inside the door, looking unsure of herself. Her eyes took in the sparse but clean space, the simple furniture, the rifle mounted above the fireplace, the dishes neatly stacked on shelves Logan had built into the wall. "Sit down," Logan said, gesturing to the table. "I'll heat up some stew." She sat gingerly, as if afraid the chair might break beneath her, or perhaps afraid that this kindness was too good to be true. Logan moved around his kitchen with practiced efficiency, stoking the coals in his stove and setting a pot of leftover venison stew to warm. He sliced bread from the loaf he had bought in town 2 days ago and set it on the table with butter. "How long have you been married?" he asked, not looking at her as he worked. Sometimes people talked more easily when they did not have to meet your eyes. 3 years, Nora said quietly. "I was 19 when we married. My parents had died 6 months before, both of them to influenza. I had no siblings, no other family. Thomas seemed like a blessing then. He was charming, attentive, generous. Everyone said I was lucky to catch his eye. He was 32, established, respected. I thought I was going to be safe, cared for. I thought I was going to have a good life." "When did it start?" Logan asked, stirring the stew. "At the hitting? 3 months after the wedding. I said something he did not like at a dinner party, something he thought made him look foolish in front of his business associates. When we got home, he slapped me. Then he cried and apologized and swore it would never happen again. He brought me flowers the next day, a necklace the day after that. I believed him. I wanted to believe him." Logan ladled stew into a bowl and set it in front of her, along with a spoon. "Eat," he said gently. Nora picked up the spoon, but just held it for a moment. It happened again, a month later, and then again. And then it was not just slapping anymore. He used his fists, his belt, whatever was nearby, and between the violence he would be sweet again, apologetic. He would tell me he'd love me, that I just needed to be better, to not make him angry. After a while, I started believing that maybe it was my fault, that if I could just be the perfect wife, he would stop. "It's not your fault," Logan said firmly, sitting down across from her. "Nothing you could have done would justify what he did to you." Nora looked up at him, and something in his steady gaze seemed to break through her numbness. She started eating, slowly at first. Then with increasing hunger, Logan realized she probably had not eaten since she fled. "When did you realize you had to leave?" he asked. Nora swallowed a bite of stew. 2 months ago, I lost a baby." Her voice went flat, emotionless, but Logan could see the pain in her eyes. "I was 4 months along. I didn't even know I was pregnant at first. My monthly courses had always been irregular. But when I realized, I was so happy. I thought maybe a child would change things, would make him gentler. Instead, he got worse. He said I was using the pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy, to not fulfill my duties as a wife. One night, he came home drunk and angry about something at the bank. He shoved me down the stairs. Logan's hands clenched into fists on the table. "Jesus! I lost the baby that night," Nora continued, her voice still eerily calm. "The doctor Thomas called said it was a tragedy, an accident. He believed Thomas when he said I had tripped. Or maybe he did not believe it, but Thomas pays him well, so he wrote down what he was told to write down. After that, something in me changed. I knew I had to leave, or eventually he would kill me. Maybe not on purpose, but it would happen. So I started planning." They sat in silence for a few moments while Nora continued eating. Logan got up and poured coffee for both of them, strong and hot, the way he liked it after a long day. "What's your plan now?" he asked. "Where were you trying to go?" "I don't know," Nora admitted. "I just knew I had to get away from Denver. I thought maybe I could make it to Cheyenne, or further north, find work somewhere, change my name. I can sew, I can cook, I can keep house. I thought maybe I could be a housekeeper or work in a boarding house, somewhere Thomas would never think to look for me." Logan considered this. "He's going to look for you. Men like him, They think they own their wives. They do not let go easily." "I know," Nora said, and there was a tremor in her voice now. "But what else can I do? I cannot go back there. I would rather die out here in the cold than go back to that house." "You are not going to die," Logan said firmly. "And you are not going back to him. But running without a real plan, without money or resources, that's dangerous too, especially for a woman alone." "Do you have a better suggestion?" Nora asked, not challenging, just genuinely curious. Logan thought about it. His ranch was isolated enough that Nora could stay here for a while without being seen. If she kept inside during the day when he occasionally had visitors or ranch hands stopping by, no one would know. That would buy them time to figure out a real plan. But he could not keep her hidden forever, and eventually Thomas Preston would expand his search beyond Denver. "Stay here for now," Logan said, "at least until we can figure out something more permanent. I have plenty of space. You can take my room upstairs. I'll sleep down here by the fire." Nora shook her head. "I could not take your room. You have already done more than enough." "I'm not arguing about this," Logan said, but his tone was gentle. "You need rest, real rest, in a real bed. You are safe here, Nora. I give you my word." Something about the way he said it, the absolute certainty in his voice, made Nora's eyes fill with tears again. "Why are you being so kind to me? You don't know me. I'm another man's wife. Helping me could bring you trouble." Logan met her gaze steadily. "My mother used to say that we are judged not by how we treat people who can do things for us, but by how we treat people who cannot. You needed help, and I can help, so that is what I'm going to do. As for the trouble, well, I have dealt with trouble before." Nora wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You cannot know what this means to me." "Finish your stew," Logan said, uncomfortable with her gratitude, though he understood it. "Then I will show you upstairs." She ate the rest of her meal in silence, and Logan found himself studying her when he thought she was not looking. Even exhausted and bruised, there was a quiet strength to her that he found compelling. Her hands, he noticed, were not the soft hands of a pampered society wife. They were red and rough from work, the nails short and uneven. Whatever her life had been with Thomas Preston, it had not been one of leisure. When she finished eating, Logan led her upstairs. His house had 2 bedrooms, though he only used one. The other was meant for guests he never had, or perhaps for the family he had always imagined he might have someday, but had never quite managed to find. His own room was simple but clean, with a bed he had built himself from pine, a dresser, and a window that looked out over the eastern pasture. "I will get you some things," he said. "A nightshirt, some water to wash with. The chamber pot is under the bed. Tomorrow we can figure out something better for clothes, but for tonight, this will have to do." He brought her one of his clean nightshirts, a basin of warm water, and a towel. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything," he said. "The door has a lock, if that makes you feel safer." "I trust you," Nora said, and she sounded surprised by her own words, as if she had not expected to be able to say them and mean them. Logan nodded and left her alone, closing the door behind him. He went back downstairs and stood by the fire for a long moment, trying to process the evening. A few hours ago, his biggest concern had been whether he had enough hay stored for the winter. Now he had a fugitive wife hiding in his house, and the probability of making an enemy of one of Denver's prominent citizens. But when he thought about sending Nora back, about what would happen to her if he did, he knew he had made the only choice he could live with. He had seen too much of the ugliness people were capable of to pretend he did not know what Thomas Preston would do to her if he found her. Logan made up a bed for himself on the floor near the fireplace, using extra blankets from the chest in the corner. It was not the most comfortable arrangement, but he had slept in worse places. The warmth from the fire would keep him plenty warm through the night. He lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, listening to the old house settle around him. From upstairs he heard the soft creaking of floorboards as Nora moved around, the quiet splash of water as she washed. Then silence. He hoped she was sleeping. God knew she needed it. Logan finally drifted off sometime after midnight, his dreams troubled by shadows and the image of frightened green eyes. He woke at dawn, as he always did, his internal clock more reliable than any timepiece. The fire had burned down to embers, and the house was cold. Logan got up, stirred the coals, and added fresh wood. Then he moved quietly around the kitchen, starting coffee and beginning breakfast. He made more noise than necessary, hoping to wake Nora gently rather than having her startled awake in an unfamiliar place. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, he heard her footsteps on the stairs. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing his nightshirt, which hung nearly to her ankles. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, and in the morning light, he could see more clearly how young she was. 22, she had said. She looked younger, especially now with sleep still soft in her eyes. "Good morning," he said. "I hope the noise did not wake you too harshly." "No, it was fine. I'm used to waking early." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I should get dressed. I'm sorry. I should not be down here like this." "There is no one here to be scandalized," Logan said with a slight smile. "But I've been thinking about the clothes situation. I have an old trunk of my mother's things in the spare room. She was about your size, I think. Nothing fancy, but it's better than what you've got." Nora's expression softened. "Your mother's clothes? Are you sure? Those must be precious to you." "She would want them used," Logan said simply. "After breakfast, we'll get you sorted." They ate together, scrambled eggs and bacon and fresh bread. Logan found himself enjoying the company more than he had expected. He had been alone for so long that he had forgotten what it was like to share a meal with someone, to hear another voice in his house. "Tell me about your ranch," Nora said. "What do you do here?" "Cattle mostly," Logan said. "I have about 100 head right now, plus horses. I break and train horses too, sell them to folks who need good working animals. It's enough to make a living, keep the ranch going." "Do you have help?" "Sometimes. There's a young fellow named Pete who comes out from town a few days a week to help with the heavy work, and during roundup or branding, I hire on a few extra hands, but mostly it is just me." "That sounds like hard work for one man," Nora observed. Logan shrugged. "I'm used to it, and I like the independence. No one to answer to but myself." After breakfast, he showed her to the spare room and pulled out the trunk he had mentioned. Inside were dresses, skirts, shirtwaists, all neatly folded and smelling faintly of lavender from the sachets his mother had always used. Logan had not opened this trunk in years, had not been able to bring himself to sort through his mother's things, but now he was glad he had kept them. Nora touched the fabrics reverently. "These are beautiful. Your mother had good taste." "She was a good woman," Logan said quietly. "Died when I was 19, her and my father both, within days of each other. Cholera outbreak." "I'm sorry," Nora said, and there was real empathy in her voice. "Losing parents is hard no matter how old you are. At least you had them longer than I had mine." They shared a look of understanding, two people who had both known loss. "Take whatever you need," Logan said. "I'll give you privacy to try things on. I need to go check on the animals anyway." He left her there and went out to do his morning chores. The November air was crisp and cold, his breath visible in the early morning light. The sky was a pale blue, cloudless, promising a clear day. His horses nickered greetings as he approached the barn, and he spent time with each one, checking hooves, distributing grain, making sure water troughs were not frozen. As he worked, his mind kept returning to Nora. He knew he could not keep her hidden indefinitely. Denver might be growing, but it was not so large that word would not spread if Thomas Preston was looking for his wife. Eventually, someone would see her, or Preston would expand his search to outlying ranches. They needed a better plan. The problem was, he could not think of one that did not involve Nora running, and running seemed like a temporary solution at best. Women traveling alone were vulnerable, especially without money or connections. And even if she made it somewhere far away, she would always be looking over her shoulder, always afraid of being found. What Nora needed was freedom, real freedom, the kind that came from not being legally bound to Thomas Preston anymore. But divorce was scandalous, expensive, and difficult to obtain. Most judges would not grant a divorce without clear evidence of adultery or abandonment, and even then, they often sided with the husband. A woman's word about physical abuse was rarely enough, especially if the husband was wealthy and respected. Logan was still turning these thoughts over in his mind when he returned to the house an hour later. Nora was in the kitchen, wearing one of his mother's calico dresses. It fit her reasonably well, though she had clearly lost weight recently. The dress hung a bit loose on her frame, but it was clean and whole, and she looked more put together than she had the night before. "It fits well," Logan said. "There are more in the trunk if you want variety." "This is already more than generous," Nora said. "Logan, I need to talk to you about something." He heard the serious note in her voice and gave her his full attention. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about my situation," she said. "You have been incredibly kind, but I cannot stay here indefinitely. It is not fair to you, and eventually Thomas will expand his search. I think I should leave soon, maybe tomorrow or the next day. If I can make it to Cheyenne, I might be able to find work, start over." Logan shook his head. "Running is not a solution, Nora, not a permanent one. You need to think about this legally." "Legally?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm a married woman. The law sees me as my husband's property. Even if I could prove he beat me, which I cannot, because who would testify against Thomas Preston, the most I might get is a legal separation, and that would not stop him from finding me and dragging me back. The law would be on his side." "Not if you could prove he was a danger to your life," Logan said. "If you had witnesses, testimony, medical records—" "I don't have any of that," Nora interrupted. "The doctor who treated me after I lost the baby is Thomas's friend. He wrote down exactly what Thomas told him to write down. I have no witnesses because Thomas was always careful to hurt me where people would not see, and he was charming to everyone else. No one would believe me over him. I'm nobody. He's Thomas Preston, respected banker, pillar of the community." Logan could see the desperation in her eyes, the hopelessness of someone who had fought too many times and lost each time. It made him angry, not at her, but at the unfairness of it all, at a system that left women like Nora with so few options. "Then we'll have to be creative," he said. Nora looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, there has to be a way to keep you safe and give you a real chance at a new life. I just need to think about it." "Why do you care so much?" Nora asked softly. "You don't owe me anything." Logan was quiet for a moment, trying to put into words something he did not fully understand himself. "When I was a kid, maybe 10 years old, my father and I were in town for supplies. We saw a man hitting his wife right there on the street, in front of everyone. My father stepped in, pulled the man off her. The man was drunk and angry, said my father had no right to interfere between a man and his wife. My father said that any man who would beat a woman in public was no man at all, and that he had every right to interfere when he saw someone being hurt." He paused, remembering. "The drunk took a swing at my father. My father put him on the ground, then helped the woman up, and asked if she had somewhere safe to go. She did, family in town, and she left him after that. The man tried to cause trouble for my father, said he had assaulted him, but there were enough witnesses who told the truth that nothing came of it. My father told me that day that strength was not about how hard you could hit, but about who you chose to protect. That has stuck with me." Nora's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Your father sounds like he was a good man." "He was, and he would help you if he were here. So I am." They spent the rest of the day settling into a routine. Nora insisted on helping around the house, and Logan did not argue too hard. He could see that she needed to feel useful, needed to feel like she was contributing rather than just hiding. She cleaned, mended a shirt of his that had been waiting for attention for weeks, and started dinner while he worked outside. It felt strangely domestic, coming in at the end of the day to find her in his kitchen, the smell of cooking food filling the house. Logan had not realized how lonely he had been until he had company. He had told himself he liked the solitude, that he preferred being alone after losing his parents. But now, with Nora here, he understood that he had just been protecting himself from the pain of loss by not letting anyone close. They ate dinner together, and Nora told him more about her life before Thomas. She had grown up in a small town in Kansas, the only child of a school teacher and a shopkeeper. They had not had much money, but they had been happy. Her father had taught her to read and write, and her mother had taught her to sew and keep house. They had loved her, supported her dreams of maybe becoming a teacher herself someday. "After they died, I lost myself for a while," Nora said. "I was so sad, so alone. When Thomas started courting me, it felt like someone was throwing me a rope while I was drowning. I grabbed on without looking at who was holding the other end." "You could not have known," Logan said. "He fooled you. That is not your fault." "I know that in my head," Nora said, "but my heart still feels stupid for falling for it." "You are not stupid," Logan said firmly. "You are a survivor. You got out, Nora. A lot of women in your situation never do. That takes courage." She looked at him across the table, really looked at him, and something passed between them, an understanding, a connection that went beyond words. Logan felt it in his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire burning in the hearth. He looked away first, suddenly unsure of himself. This woman was vulnerable, running for her life, and the last thing she needed was him developing feelings for her. She needed a protector, a friend, not someone who would complicate her situation further. But as the days passed, Logan found it increasingly difficult to deny what he was feeling. Nora had been with him for nearly a week now, and in that time, she had become woven into the fabric of his daily life. He looked forward to coming in from his work to find her in the house. He enjoyed their conversations over meals, the way she laughed at his stories, the way she listened when he talked about his plans for the ranch, and he could see that she was healing, slowly but surely. The haunted look in her eyes was fading. She smiled more easily. She was sleeping better, no longer waking with nightmares that he could hear from downstairs. The bruises on her face were fading to yellow, and she moved with less pain. One afternoon, about 8 days after she had arrived, Logan came in from working with one of the horses to find Nora at the stove, humming to herself as she stirred something in a pot. She had not noticed him come in, and he stood there for a moment, just watching her. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, catching in her dark hair, and Logan felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. He must have made a sound because she turned and saw him. "Oh, you startled me. I did not hear you come in." "Sorry," Logan said, hanging his coat on the peg by the door. "What are you making? It smells good." "Stew," she said. "I found root vegetables in your cellar and thought I would do something with them. I hope that is all right." "Of course it is. You do not have to ask permission for things like that, Nora." She bit her lip. "I'm still getting used to that, to not having to ask permission for every little thing." Logan walked closer, leaning against the counter. "Did he control everything you did?" "Everything," Nora confirmed. "What I wore, what I cooked, who I could talk to, where I could go. If I did something without asking first, even something small, he would get angry. After a while, I just stopped making decisions at all. It was safer that way." "That is not a life," Logan said quietly. "That is a prison." "I know that now," Nora said. She turned to look at him, and there was something different in her eyes, something he had not seen before. "Being here with you has reminded me what it feels like to be treated like a person instead of a possession. You ask my opinion about things. You listen when I talk. You do not get angry when I have thoughts of my own. I had forgotten what that was like." Logan felt that warmth in his chest again, stronger this time. "Everyone deserves to be treated that way, Nora. The way Preston treated you, that is not normal. That is not how it is supposed to be." "I'm starting to believe that," she said softly. They stood there for a moment, the air between them charged with something unspoken. Logan wanted to reach out, to touch her hand, to close the distance between them. But he held himself back. It was too soon. She had been through too much. He would not take advantage of her vulnerability, no matter how he felt. The moment was broken by the sound of hoofbeats outside. They both tensed, and Logan immediately moved to the window. A rider was approaching the house, and as he got closer, Logan relaxed slightly. It was Pete, the young man who sometimes helped him on the ranch. "Go upstairs," Logan said quickly to Nora. "Just until he leaves. I'll get rid of him as fast as I can." Nora nodded and hurried up the stairs. Logan waited until he heard his bedroom door close before he went outside to meet Pete. The young man was 18, eager and hard-working, the son of a farmer whose land had failed. He had been grateful when Logan had offered him work, even if it was only part-time. "Hey, Logan," Pete said, dismounting. "Sorry to drop by unannounced. I was heading back from town and thought I would check if you needed help with anything this week." "I appreciate it, Pete, but I'm good for now," Logan said, trying not to sound like he was rushing the kid off. "A lot of the heavy work is done for the season." "All right," Pete said. "Oh, before I forget, there is talk in town you should know about." Logan felt his stomach tighten. "What kind of talk?" "That banker fellow, Thomas Preston. His wife has gone missing. He has been putting up notices all over town, offering a reward for information about her whereabouts. Says she is not well, that she wandered off and might be confused or in danger." Logan kept his face carefully neutral. "Is that so?" "Yeah. He has got folks pretty worked up about it. There are people out looking for her, checking the roads, asking questions. Just thought you should know in case anyone comes by here asking." "I'll keep an eye out," Logan said. "Thanks for the warning." Pete nodded and remounted his horse. "See you around, Logan." Logan watched him ride off, his mind racing. So Preston had started a search, and he was being smart about it, making himself look like the concerned husband worried about his sick wife. It was a good strategy. People would sympathize with him, would want to help. And if Nora was found, no one would question Preston's right to take her back. He went back inside and called up the stairs. "He is gone. You can come down." Nora appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale. "I heard. Thomas is looking for me." "He is," Logan confirmed. "And he is being clever about it, making you out to be ill and confused rather than running from him." Nora came down the stairs slowly, her hand gripping the railing. "He will find me. It is only a matter of time. He has money, influence, people who will help him. I need to leave, Logan. Tonight, before he thinks to search this far out." "No," Logan said firmly. "If you run now, with him actively searching and offering a reward, you will be caught for sure. Every bounty hunter and opportunist in the territory will be looking for you." "Then what do I do?" Nora's voice was rising with panic. "I can't just sit here and wait for him to find me." Logan thought quickly. An idea had been forming in the back of his mind for the past few days, but he had been hesitant to voice it because it was radical, potentially dangerous, and would change everything. But now, with Preston actively searching, they were out of time for careful planning. "Marry me," he said. Nora stared at him. "What?" "Marry me," Logan repeated. "If you are married to me, then Preston has no legal claim on you. A woman cannot be married to two men. It would invalidate his marriage." "That is not how it works," Nora said, shaking her head. "I'm already married. I cannot just marry someone else. That would be bigamy." "Only if both marriages are legal," Logan said. He was thinking out loud now, working through the logistics. What if your marriage to Preston was not legal? What if there was something wrong with it, something that made it invalid from the start? Like what? "I do not know yet. I am not a lawyer, but there has to be something. Or, what if we went somewhere that the marriage to Preston is not recognized? Wyoming territory is right there, different laws, different jurisdiction. We could go to Cheyenne, get married there, come back as husband and wife. Even if Preston challenges it, that would take time, and in the meantime, you would have legal protection as my wife. He could not just drag you back without fighting me for you, and I promise you, Nora, I would fight." Nora was looking at him like he had grown a second head. "Logan, you cannot be serious. You barely know me. You don't want to marry me." "Why not?" Logan challenged. "I like you. I respect you. We get along well. I have seen marriages based on a lot less." "But this is not about marriage," Nora said desperately. "This is about you trying to save me, and I cannot let you sacrifice yourself like that. Marriage is supposed to be forever. You would be stuck with me." "Would that be so terrible?" Logan asked quietly. Nora opened her mouth, closed it again. She looked confused, lost. "I don't understand. Why would you do this?" Logan took a breath. This was not how he had imagined ever having this conversation, but they were out of time for romance and careful courtship. "Because I care about you, Nora. I know it has only been a little over a week, but in that time, you have become important to me. I look forward to seeing you every day. I like talking to you, hearing your thoughts, watching you rediscover yourself without Preston crushing you down. The thought of him taking you back, of him hurting you again, makes me physically ill. So, yes, I want to marry you, not just to save you, though that is part of it, but because I think we could be happy together. I think we could build a good life here." "Tears," Logan said gently. "I am not even asking you to trust me completely, though I hope that will come in time. I am just asking you to let me help you, to give us both a chance at something better. We can take it slow, figure things out as we go. But at least as my wife, you would be safe. You would have a home, protection, a future. And if someday you decide you want more, want to really make this marriage work in every way, then we will cross that bridge when we come to it." Nora was silent for a long time, her mind clearly working through everything he had said. Logan waited, his heart pounding. He had laid his cards on the table, been more honest about his feelings than he had planned to be. Now it was up to her. "What if he challenges the marriage?" Nora finally asked. "What if he comes after you?" "Then I will deal with it," Logan said. "I am not afraid of Thomas Preston." "You should be," Nora said. "He is dangerous, Logan. He is not just going to accept losing me." "Neither am I," Logan said. "Nora, you asked me why I care so much. The truth is I have been alone for a long time. After my parents died, I threw myself into building this ranch, into surviving. I told myself I was happy alone, that I did not need anyone. But having you here has shown me what I have been missing. You have brought life back into this house, into my life. So, yes, part of this is about protecting you, but part of it is also selfish. I want you to stay. I want to see where this could go between us, and marriage seems like the best way to make that happen, while also keeping you safe from Preston. Nora wiped at her tears. You are either the bravest man I have ever met, or the craziest. Maybe both, Logan said with a slight smile. She laughed, a watery sound, but genuine. I cannot believe I am even considering this. It is insane. Sometimes the sanest choice looks insane from the outside, Logan said. What do you say, Nora? Will you take a chance on this? On us? Nora looked at him for a long moment, and Logan could see the war going on behind her eyes, fear fighting with hope, caution fighting with the desperate desire to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could work out. Finally, she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. Logan felt relief wash over him, followed quickly by determination. All right, then we need to move fast. We will leave for Cheyenne first thing in the morning. It is about 100 miles north, so it will take a few days to get there by horse. We'll get married there, wait a few days to make sure the paperwork is all filed properly, then come back. By the time Preston figures out where you are, it will be too late. You will be my wife, legally, and he will have to go through me to get to you. What about your ranch? Can you just leave it? The animals will be fine for a week or so. I will put out extra feed before we go, make sure everything is secure. This is more important. They spent the rest of the evening preparing for the journey. Logan packed supplies, food, blankets, and gear they would need for the trip. Nora gathered the few clothes she had from his mother's trunk. Logan also took money from his savings, enough to cover the marriage license, a few nights in a hotel, and any other expenses they might have. It was most of what he had, but he did not hesitate. Nora's safety was worth more than money. That night, lying on his makeshift bed by the fire, Logan stared at the ceiling and wondered what he had just gotten himself into. He had proposed marriage to a woman he had known for just over a week. He was about to make an enemy of a powerful man. He was potentially putting himself in legal jeopardy if anyone decided to challenge the validity of the marriage. But when he thought about Nora, about her green eyes and the way she had started to smile again, about the strength it had taken for her to run and keep running, despite being caught multiple times before, he knew he was doing the right thing. He had told her the truth. He cared about her, more than he had expected to care about anyone. And if this crazy plan gave them both a chance at happiness, then it was worth the risk. Upstairs, Nora was having similar thoughts. She sat on Logan's bed, wearing his mother's nightgown, trying to process everything that had happened. She was going to marry Logan Anderson, a man she barely knew. It was reckless, impulsive, possibly stupid. But as she thought about it, she realized that it also felt right in a way that her marriage to Thomas never had. Thomas had swept her off her feet with grand gestures and pretty words, but there had always been an undercurrent of control, of possession. Even before the violence started, he had been telling her what to do, making decisions for her, treating her like a beautiful object he had acquired rather than a partner. Logan was different. In the week she had been here, he had never once ordered her to do anything. He asked her opinion, listened to her thoughts, treated her like an equal. When he had proposed, he had been honest about his feelings, but had not pressured her. He had laid out the practical reasons, yes, but he had also admitted that he cared about her, that he wanted her to stay. And then, he had left the choice up to her. That was what made her say yes, Nora realized. Not just the protection he was offering, though that was crucial, but the fact that he had given her a choice. For the first time in 3 years, someone was giving her agency over her own life. She lay down and pulled the blankets up, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation about what tomorrow would bring. She was taking a huge leap of faith, trusting a man she had only just met. But her instincts, which had been so wrong about Thomas, were telling her that Logan was different, that he was trustworthy, that maybe, against all odds, this could work. And if her instincts were wrong again, well, at least she would have tried. At least she would have fought for her freedom one more time. That was more than she had thought she would have when she had been hiding in Logan's barn just over a week ago, terrified and alone. Tomorrow, she would start a journey toward a new life, and maybe, if she was very lucky, toward love. They left at first light before the sun had fully risen. Logan had 2 horses saddled and ready, his own sturdy gelding and a gentler mare he thought Nora could handle. She was not an experienced rider, but she learned quickly, and by mid-morning she was managing well enough. The journey north toward Cheyenne took them through rolling prairie lands, still brown from the coming winter. The sky was vast and blue above them, and the wind was cold but not unbearable. They rode mostly in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. But it was a comfortable silence. They stopped at midday to rest the horses and eat a cold lunch of bread and cheese Logan had packed. As they sat on a fallen log, Nora looked out at the endless expanse of land around them. "I have never been this far from Denver," she said. "Thomas never let me travel anywhere without him, and he rarely left the city." "Do you like it?" Logan asked. "The open space?" "I think I do," Nora said slowly. "It is a little frightening how empty it is, but also freeing, like there is room to breathe. That is why I like ranch life," Logan said. "Out here, you are free to be yourself. No one watching, no one judging." They rode on, covering as much ground as they could before darkness fell. Logan had planned their route to pass near a creek he knew, and they made camp there for the night. He built a fire while Nora unpacked the food. They cooked beans and bacon over the flames and ate as the stars began to appear overhead. "I have never slept outside before," Nora said, looking up at the sky. The stars were coming out in force, more than she had ever seen in town where the lights dulled them. "It is peaceful once you get used to it," Logan said, "though it can be cold. We'll have to sleep close to the fire." He had brought 2 bedrolls, and he laid them out near the fire, a respectful distance apart. Nora appreciated that he was being careful about propriety, even though they were about to be married. After everything with Thomas, she needed that space, that assurance that Logan would not push her into anything she was not ready for. They talked quietly as the fire burned down, sharing more about their lives. Logan told her about learning to ranch from his father, about the year he had spent barely surviving after his parents died, about slowly building the ranch into something sustainable. Nora told him about her childhood in Kansas, about the books she had loved to read, about the dreams she had once had of becoming a teacher. "You could still do that," Logan said. "Teach, I mean. Maybe not in a school, but there are always children who need teaching. Ranch families out here, they would pay for someone to teach their kids." "I had not thought about that," Nora said, and there was a spark of something in her voice. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of seeing a future that held more than just survival. Eventually, they settled into their bedrolls. Logan lay awake long after Nora's breathing had evened out into sleep, watching the fire, listening to the sounds of the night. He was hyper-aware of her presence just a few feet away, of the trust she was placing in him. He would not let her down. Whatever it took, he would keep her safe and give her the chance at the life she deserved. The next day brought more riding. They made good time, and by late afternoon, they had covered another 30 miles. That night, they camped near a small stand of cottonwood trees that offered some shelter from the wind. The routine was becoming familiar now, setting up camp, cooking dinner, talking by the fire. Logan noticed that Nora seemed more relaxed than she had been when they left. The fear that had been a constant presence in her eyes was fading, replaced by something that looked like cautious optimism. She smiled more easily, even laughed at a joke Logan made about his cooking skills. "I am glad you are here with me," Logan said impulsively. "I know the circumstances are not ideal, but I want you to know that I am glad." Nora looked at him across the fire, and the light danced in her eyes. "I am glad too," she said softly. "You have given me something I thought I had lost forever, hope. Thank you for that, Logan." The moment felt significant, weighted with unspoken things. Logan wanted to say more, wanted to tell her that he was falling for her, that every day he spent with her made him more certain that this marriage was not just about protection, but about building something real. But he held back. There would be time for those words later, when she had had time to heal, to learn to trust again. The 3rd day of their journey dawned cold and overcast. The wind had picked up during the night, and Logan could smell snow in the air. He hoped they would make it to Cheyenne before the weather turned. They rode hard that day, pushing the horses as much as they dared. Nora was tired. He could see it in the way she sat her saddle. But she did not complain. She had a core of steel in her, Logan had learned, a determination that had kept her fighting even when the odds were against her. By late afternoon, they crested a hill and saw Cheyenne spread out before them. It was larger than Denver, bustling with activity even from a distance. The railroad had come through a few years back, and the town had exploded in size as a result. "We made it," Logan said, relief evident in his voice. They rode into town as the sun was setting, threading their way through streets crowded with wagons, horses, and people. Logan found a hotel that looked respectable, the Cheyenne House, and paid for 2 rooms. He caught the clerk's curious look at Nora and said simply, "My fiancée, we are here to be married." The clerk's expression cleared, and he handed over 2 keys with a smile. "Congratulations, then. The courthouse is just 2 streets over if you need a license." Their rooms were small but clean. Logan waited in the hallway while Nora went into hers and freshened up from the journey. When she emerged, she had changed into one of the nicer dresses from his mother's trunk, a dark blue calico that brought out her eyes. "You look beautiful," Logan said, and meant it. Nora blushed. "Thank you. So, what now?" "Now we go to the courthouse and see about getting a marriage license. With any luck, we can find someone to perform the ceremony tomorrow." The courthouse was still open, and the clerk who helped them fill out the paperwork was efficient and bored, barely looking at them. Logan gave their names, ages, and other required information. When asked about prior marriages, Nora hesitated for only a moment before writing, "None." It was a lie, but a necessary one. If they disclosed her marriage to Preston, the license would be denied. They paid the fee, were told to return the next day for the actual ceremony, and left. As they walked back toward the hotel through the darkening streets, Nora said quietly, "I lied on those papers." "I know," Logan said, "but what choice did we have? If we told the truth, they would not have issued the license." "It feels wrong," Nora said, "like we are building our marriage on a lie." Logan stopped walking and turned to face her. "Listen to me, Nora. That marriage to Preston was wrong. He hurt you, controlled you, nearly killed you. Whatever vows you made to him, he broke them 1,000 times over. You owe him nothing, least of all your honesty on a marriage license. What we are doing here, this is about giving you a future. Do not let guilt over a technicality poison that." Nora nodded slowly. "You are right. I know you are right. It is just hard to shake the feeling that I am doing something terrible." "You are doing what you need to do to survive," Logan said. "That is never terrible." They had dinner at a restaurant near the hotel, a nice meal of steak and potatoes that tasted like a feast after days of trail food. Nora was quiet through most of it, clearly nervous about what tomorrow would bring. "Are you having second thoughts?" Logan asked gently. Nora shook her head. "No, just first thoughts, I suppose. Tomorrow I will be married again. The last time I did this, I thought I was making the best decision of my life. I thought I was going to be happy and safe. I was so wrong. I am not Thomas Preston," Logan said quietly. "I will never hurt you, Nora. I give you my word on that." "I believe you," Nora said, and she sounded surprised by her own certainty. "That is what scares me a little. I believe Thomas too, and look how that turned out. What if my judgment is just fundamentally flawed?" Logan reached across the table and took her hand. It was the first time he had really touched her, beyond helping her on and off her horse, and he felt her stiffen slightly before relaxing. "Your judgment is not flawed. Preston was a liar and a manipulator. He fooled you on purpose, but you figured it out, Nora. You saw through him, and you got out. That takes good judgment, and now you are trusting me, and I promise you that trust is not misplaced." Nora looked down at their joined hands. "I hope you are right." "I am," Logan said, with more confidence than he felt. He hoped he could live up to the faith she was placing in him. He hoped he could be the man she needed him to be. That night, lying in his hotel room, Logan could not sleep. Tomorrow he would marry Nora Preston, soon to be Nora Anderson. It would make her legally his wife, give her his name and his protection. It was what he wanted, but it was also terrifying. Marriage was a huge commitment, and he was entering into it under extraordinary circumstances with a woman he had known for less than 2 weeks. But when he thought about the alternative, about sending Nora back to Preston or watching her run without protection, he knew he was making the right choice. And when he was honest with himself, he knew his feelings for Nora went beyond just wanting to protect her. He was falling in love with her, had been since those first days when he watched her rediscover herself in the safety of his home. He just hoped that someday she might feel the same way about him. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Logan dressed in his best clothes, a suit he had packed for just this purpose. When he knocked on Nora's door, she opened it wearing his mother's finest dress, a dove gray silk that had clearly been saved for special occasions. It fit her beautifully, and she had pinned up her hair in a style that made her look older, more sophisticated. "You look stunning," Logan said. "I found this at the bottom of the trunk," Nora said, smoothing the skirt nervously. "I hope you do not mind me wearing it for this." "My mother would be honored," Logan said honestly. "She always said that dress was for important occasions. I cannot think of anything more important than this." They walked to the courthouse together, neither saying much. Logan could feel the nervous energy radiating off Nora, and he wished he could find the words to ease her fears. But he knew that only time would do that, time and him proving through his actions that she could trust him. The ceremony itself was brief and perfunctory. A judge married them in a small office, with 2 clerks pulled in to serve as witnesses. They recited vows that felt both momentous and oddly impersonal. Logan slipped a ring onto Nora's finger, a simple gold band he had bought that morning from a jeweler near the hotel. It was not fancy, but it was real gold, and it fit perfectly. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Logan felt a surge of protectiveness so strong it nearly overwhelmed him. This woman was his now, legally and truly. He would defend her with everything he had. The judge told Logan he could kiss his bride, and Logan looked at Nora questioningly, giving her the choice. She nodded slightly, and he leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to her lips. It was quick, chaste, but Logan felt it all the way to his toes. This was his wife. They signed the marriage certificate, paid the judge's fee, and left. Just like that, Nora Preston had become Nora Anderson. "How do you feel?" Logan asked as they walked back through the streets of Cheyenne. "Strange," Nora admitted. "Like this cannot possibly be real. Like I am going to wake up and find myself back in Denver with Thomas." "It is real," Logan assured her. "You are my wife now, Nora, and I will spend every day making sure you never have to go back to that life." They stayed in Cheyenne for 3 more days, waiting to make sure the marriage was properly recorded in all the official channels. Logan wanted there to be no question about the validity of their marriage when they returned to Colorado. During those days, they explored the town, ate meals together, and continued to get to know each other. On their last night in Cheyenne, over dinner at the hotel restaurant, Nora said something that surprised Logan. "I think I might be happy." Logan looked at her. "You sound surprised." "I am," Nora said. "I have been so focused on surviving, on escaping Thomas, that I had not thought about what would come after. But being here with you, being married to you, I am starting to think that maybe I could have a real life again. Maybe I could be happy." "You will be," Logan promised. "I am going to do everything I can to make sure of it." The journey back to Denver took another 3 days. They rode south through increasingly familiar landscape, and Logan found himself both eager and anxious to get home. Eager because he wanted to show Nora her new home as his wife, to start building their life together. Anxious because he knew that Thomas Preston would eventually find out about the marriage, and there would be consequences to face. But when they crested the final hill and saw Logan's ranch spread out below them, with the house and barn and corrals looking just as they had left them, Logan felt a sense of rightness settle over him. This was home, and now Nora was home too. They settled back into the house, but things were different now. Nora was not hiding anymore. She was Logan's wife, and she had every right to be there. She moved through the house with more confidence, rearranging things to suit her taste, adding small touches that made the place feel more like a home and less like a bachelor's dwelling. Logan gave her space, letting her find her own way. They had separate bedrooms still, an arrangement they had agreed on without discussing it explicitly. Nora was not ready for the physical intimacy that usually came with marriage, and Logan was content to wait. He had married her to protect her, and because he cared about her, not to claim some kind of marital rights. When and if their marriage became a true one in every sense, it would be because Nora wanted it, not because he pushed. A week after they returned, they got their first test. Logan was working in the barn when he heard horses approaching. He walked out to see 3 men riding up to his house. One of them was Thomas Preston. Logan's jaw tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. Preston was exactly what Logan had expected. Polished, well-dressed, with the kind of face that probably made women trust him right up until he showed his true nature. The 2 men with him looked like hired muscle. the kind you could find in any saloon if you had money to burn. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Logan said, positioning himself between them and the house. Preston dismounted, his movements smooth and controlled. "Mr. Anderson, I presume? I am Thomas Preston. I believe you have something that belongs to me." "I do not believe I do," Logan said calmly, "but you are welcome to enlighten me." "My wife," Preston said, and there was steel under the polite tone. "Nora, I have been informed that she is here." "You have been misinformed," Logan said. "I have no knowledge of your wife's whereabouts." Preston's eyes narrowed. "I have it on good authority that she was seen coming out of your house just yesterday, a woman matching her description, wearing a dress and looking very much at home." Someone had seen Nora and reported back to Preston. Logan had known this would happen eventually, but he had hoped for more time. "The woman you were referring to is my wife," Logan said. "Nora Anderson. We were married in Cheyenne 2 weeks ago." The look on Preston's face was worth everything. Shock, rage, disbelief, all flashing across his features in rapid succession. "That is not possible. Nora is married to me." "Was married to you," Logan corrected. "But she dissolved that marriage and married me. It is all legal and properly filed. If you do not believe me, you can check the records in Cheyenne yourself." "She cannot just dissolve a marriage," Preston sputtered. "That is not how it works. She is my wife." "Not anymore," Logan said. "Now I am going to have to ask you to leave my property, Mr. Preston. My wife does not want to see you, and you have no business here." Preston took a step forward, his hands clenched into fists. "You think you can steal my wife and get away with it? I will have you arrested. I will have this sham marriage annulled. I will ruin you." "You are welcome to try," Logan said, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. "But while you are making threats, let me make something clear. If you ever come near my wife again, if you ever try to hurt her or intimidate her or take her anywhere she does not want to go, I will put you in the ground. Are we clear?" The two men with Preston moved their hands toward their guns, but Logan did not flinch. "I would not do that if I were you. Self-defense is a powerful thing in these parts, and I have witnesses." He nodded toward the house, where Nora had appeared in the doorway, watching the confrontation. Preston looked at Nora, and the rage on his face was terrible to see. "You whore," he hissed. "You ran to another man. You betrayed your vows, your duty. You are nothing but a—" "Enough," Logan interrupted, his voice like ice. "You will not speak to her that way. Not on my land. Get out, Preston, now, before I forget about the law and throw you out myself." For a moment, it looked like Preston might do something stupid, but then he seemed to regain control of himself. "This is not over," he said, backing toward his horse. "I will fight this. I will prove that marriage is fraudulent, and when I do, she will be mine again." "Keep telling yourself that," Logan said, "but it changes nothing. Nora is my wife now, and I protect what is mine." Preston mounted his horse, his two companions following suit. "You have made a powerful enemy today, Anderson. I hope your little ranch is worth it?" "She is worth everything," Logan said simply. Preston rode off, his men flanking him, but Logan could see the fury in every line of his body. This was far from over. Preston would cause trouble, would try to challenge the marriage, would look for any weakness he could exploit. But for now, he was gone, and Nora was safe. Logan walked to the house where Nora stood in the doorway, trembling. "Are you all right?" he asked. "He looked like he wanted to kill me," Nora whispered. "Did you see his face?" "I saw it," Logan confirmed. "But he is gone now, and he is not going to touch you. Not while I'm alive." Nora stepped forward and, to Logan's surprise, wrapped her arms around him. She had never initiated physical contact with him before, and he froze for a moment before carefully putting his arms around her, holding her while she shook. "Thank you," she said into his chest. "Thank you for standing up to him, for protecting me." "Always," Logan said. "You are my wife, Nora. I will always protect you." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, and Logan felt something shift between them. They had faced their first real test as a married couple, and they had come through it together. It was a start. The weeks that followed were tense. Logan half expected Preston to show up with the law, to try to have Logan arrested for bigamy or kidnapping or any number of trumped-up charges. But days passed, then weeks, and nothing happened. Logan began to hope that maybe Preston had accepted defeat, had moved on. He should have known better. It was a cold December evening when the knock came at the door. Logan opened it to find a man in a suit, carrying a leather satchel. "Logan Anderson?" the man asked. "That is me." "You have been served." The man handed Logan a sheaf of papers. "Good evening." He left before Logan could respond. Logan unfolded the papers and felt his stomach drop. It was a lawsuit. Thomas Preston was suing for the annulment of Logan and Nora's marriage, claiming it was fraudulent because Nora had been legally married to him at the time. He was also seeking a court order to compel Nora to return to Denver and to him. Nora appeared at his shoulder. "What is it?" Logan showed her the papers. He watched the color drain from her face. "He is not giving up," she said quietly. "I did not think he would," Logan admitted. "But this changes things. We need a lawyer, someone who can fight this properly." The next day, Logan rode into Denver and found a lawyer, a man named Samuel Green, who had a reputation for taking on difficult cases. Logan laid out the whole situation, holding nothing back. Green listened, making notes, his expression giving nothing away. When Logan finished, Green sat back in his chair. "This is complicated, Mr. Anderson. Technically, Mrs. Anderson, was still legally married when she married you. That does make your marriage potentially invalid." "But her first marriage was a nightmare," Logan argued. "He beat her. He nearly killed her. She had to run for her life." "I believe you," Green said, "but proving that in court is another matter. We would need evidence, witnesses, medical records. Do you have any of that?" "No," Logan admitted. "Preston was careful. He hurt her where people could not see, and the one doctor who treated her is Preston's friend." Green nodded slowly. "Then we have to approach this differently. Instead of defending the validity of your marriage on the grounds that her first marriage was invalid, we need to prove that her first marriage ended before she married you." "How do we do that?" "There are a few possibilities. Abandonment, if we can prove Preston abandoned her. Cruelty, though, that requires witnesses. Or," Green trailed off thinking, "or we argue that Preston's actions constituted a dissolution of the marriage by his own behavior. It is not standard, but I have seen judges accept it in extreme cases." "Will it work?" Logan asked. "I do not know," Green said honestly, "but it is our best shot. I will need to meet with Mrs. Anderson, get her full testimony, and we need to be prepared for this to get ugly. Preston has money and influence. He will use both." Logan returned to the ranch and explained the situation to Nora. She listened, her face pale but determined. "I will do whatever it takes," she said. "I will not go back to him, Logan. I will not." The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and preparation. Samuel Green proved to be thorough and dedicated, and he quickly became convinced of the righteousness of their cause. He interviewed Nora extensively, documenting every instance of abuse, every injury, every escape attempt. He also began investigating Preston, looking for any crack in the man's respectable facade. What he found was interesting. Preston had been married once before, years ago back east. That wife had died under mysterious circumstances, a fall down the stairs that had broken her neck. The official ruling had been an accident, but there were whispers, rumors that were never investigated because Preston's family had money and influence. "If we can get people to testify about that," Green said, "it establishes a pattern. It shows that Preston is dangerous, that your wife was right to fear for her life. But finding people willing to testify against Thomas Preston proved difficult. He had too much power, too many friends. People were afraid of crossing him." As the court date approached, Logan could see the strain taking its toll on Nora. She was sleeping poorly, jumping at every sound, terrified that somehow Preston would find a way to take her back. Logan did his best to reassure her, but he was worried too. If they lost this case, the law would be on Preston's side. Nora would be ordered to return to him, and if Logan tried to prevent that, he could be arrested. The night before the hearing, they sat together by the fire. Nora was quiet, staring into the flames. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Logan said, "I want you to know something. I do not regret any of this. Marrying you, fighting for you, it has been the best thing I have ever done." Nora looked at him, and there were tears in her eyes. "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I love you," she said simply. "I did not think I could ever feel that again, not after Thomas. I thought he had broken that part of me. But you have been so patient, so kind, so good to me. You have never pushed, never demanded anything from me. You have just been there, solid and steady. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. I needed you to know that, in case tomorrow does not go our way. I needed you to know that this has been real for me too. This marriage, it is not just about protection anymore. It is about love. Logan felt his heart swell. He reached out and took her hand. I love you too, Nora. I have from almost the beginning, I think. You are the strongest, bravest person I know. She smiled through her tears. We are quite a pair, are we not? Two broken people trying to make something whole. Maybe that is what makes it work, Logan said. He leaned forward, and this time when he kissed her, it was not the chaste kiss of their wedding day. It was real and deep and full of all the feelings they had been holding back. Nora kissed him back, her hands coming up to frame his face, and Logan felt like something inside him clicked into place. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless. I should go to bed, Nora said softly. We have a long day tomorrow. Do you want company? Logan asked. Just to sleep. I just want to hold you. Nora nodded, and they went upstairs together. They lay down in Logan's bed, fully clothed, and Logan wrapped his arms around her. Nora tucked her head against his chest, and for the first time since she had come into his life, Logan felt like they were truly married in every way that mattered. The courtroom was packed the next morning. News of the case had spread, and it seemed like half of Denver had turned out to watch. Thomas Preston sat with his lawyers on one side, looking confident and composed. Logan and Nora sat with Samuel Green on the other, and Logan kept hold of Nora's hand the entire time. The judge, a stern man named Harrison, called the court to order. Preston's lawyers went first, laying out their case. They argued that Nora had been legally married to Preston when she married Logan, that the second marriage was therefore invalid, and that she should be returned to her rightful husband. They painted Nora as a confused, possibly mentally unstable woman who had been taken advantage of by Logan. Then it was Samuel Green's turn. He stood and addressed the court with quiet confidence. Your Honor, I am not here to argue that Mrs. Anderson was not married to Mr. Preston when she married my client. She was. But I am here to argue that the marriage to Mr. Preston had already been dissolved by his own actions long before the legal marriage to Mr. Anderson took place. He went on to detail the abuse, using Nora's testimony and the limited evidence they had been able to gather. He brought up Preston's first wife, the suspicious death, the pattern of violence, and then he made a surprising move. He called Nora to the stand. Logan squeezed her hand before she stood. She walked to the witness box with her head held high, and Logan had never been more proud of her. Green questioned her gently, taking her through her history with Preston. She spoke clearly, without tears, detailing the abuse in a way that was both heartbreaking and powerful. She showed the scars on her arms where Preston had burned her with a cigar. She described losing her baby after he pushed her down the stairs. And then she looked directly at Preston and said, I ran because I knew he would kill me eventually. And I married Logan because he offered me something Thomas never did. Safety, respect, and love. I am not confused or unstable. I am a woman who escaped her abuser and found a real partner, and I will not go back. The courtroom was silent when she finished. Even Preston's lawyers seemed shaken. Preston himself looked murderous, but he could not speak, could not defend himself without making things worse. Then Green pulled out his final card. He had found someone willing to testify against Preston, a former housemaid who had worked for Preston and Nora for 6 months before quitting. She took the stand and described what she had seen. The bruises on Nora, the way Preston controlled every aspect of her life, the night she had heard him beating Nora and had quit the next day because she could not stomach working for such a man. When the testimony was done, Judge Harrison sat back and was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. This court has heard compelling evidence that Mr. Preston engaged in systematic abuse of Mrs. Preston, now Mrs. Anderson. While the law does not generally recognize abuse as grounds for the automatic dissolution of a marriage, I find that in this case, Mr. Preston's actions were so egregious as to constitute a fundamental breach of the marriage contract. Furthermore, I find that Mrs. Anderson was acting in reasonable fear for her life when she fled, and that her marriage to Mr. Anderson, while legally questionable in its timing, was entered into in good faith as a means of securing her safety. He paused, and Logan held his breath. Therefore, I am ruling that the marriage between Nora Preston and Thomas Preston is hereby dissolved, retroactively to the date that Mrs. Preston fled the marital home. The marriage between Nora Anderson and Logan Anderson is declared valid and legal. Mr. Preston's petition for annulment is denied. Furthermore, I am issuing a protective order preventing Mr. Preston from coming within 100 yards of Mrs. Anderson. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down, and Logan felt like he could breathe again. They had won. Nora was legally his wife, and Preston could not touch her. He looked at Nora and saw tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of relief and joy. She turned and threw herself into his arms, and Logan held her tight, not caring that they were in a crowded courtroom, not caring about anything except that she was safe and she was his. Samuel Green was beaming. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. You are well and truly married now, with the full backing of the law." Logan shook his hand gratefully. "Thank you, Samuel. We could not have done this without you." As they left the courtroom, Logan saw Preston standing by the door, his face a mask of rage. But there was nothing he could do now. The law had spoken, and for once, it had been on the side of justice. They rode back to the ranch in high spirits. The weight of uncertainty finally lifted. That night, they celebrated with a simple dinner and the bottle of whiskey Logan had been saving for a special occasion. "To freedom," Nora said, raising her glass. "To love," Logan added, clinking his glass against hers. They drank, and then Nora set down her glass and looked at Logan. "I have been thinking," she said, "about us, about our marriage. We have been living like housemates, sleeping in separate rooms, being polite and careful with each other. And I understand why. I needed space, needed time to heal. But I do not need that anymore, Logan. I love you, and I want this to be a real marriage in every way. If you still want that too." Logan felt his heart race. "Are you sure? I do not want you to feel pressured." "I am sure," Nora said. "For the first time in 3 years, I am making a choice about my own body, my own life, and I choose you. I choose us." Logan stood and walked around the table. He took her hands and pulled her to her feet. "Then come to bed with me, wife. Let me show you how a husband is supposed to treat the woman he loves." Nora smiled, and it was a smile full of trust and anticipation. They went upstairs together, and this time, when Logan closed the bedroom door behind them, it was with the knowledge that they were beginning a new chapter of their lives, one built on love and mutual respect and hard-won freedom. He was gentle with her, taking his time, showing her through touch and words that she was cherished. And Nora, who had known only pain and fear from a man's touch, discovered that it could be something entirely different. It could be beautiful. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the room lit only by moonlight streaming through the window. Nora traced patterns on Logan's chest, and he played with her hair, both of them quiet and content. "Thank you," Nora whispered. "For what?" "For everything. For taking me in when I was hiding in your barn. For marrying me. For fighting for me. For being patient with me. For loving me." "You do not have to thank me for loving you," Logan said. "That is the easiest thing I have ever done." Nora raised her head and kissed him. "I cannot wait to spend the rest of my life with you, Logan Anderson." "The rest of our lives," Logan agreed. "That has a nice ring to it." The winter months passed peacefully. Logan and Nora settled into married life, discovering the rhythms and routines that worked for them. Nora proved to be an excellent ranch wife, capable and hard-working. She helped with the animals, kept the house, and started a large garden plot that she planned to plant in the spring. They heard through Samuel Green that Thomas Preston had left Denver, returned east to salvage his reputation. There were rumors that his bank was investigating irregularities in his accounts, that perhaps all had not been as upright as Preston had wanted people to believe. Logan hoped the man got exactly what he deserved, but mostly he was just glad Preston was gone and no longer a threat. By early spring, Nora had some news. She was pregnant. Logan was overjoyed, but also worried. He knew about the baby she had lost, knew that pregnancy would bring back difficult memories, but Nora was surprisingly calm about it. "This is different," she told him. "I am not afraid this time. I know you will take care of me, that you will never hurt me or our baby. I am actually excited, Logan. I thought I would never have children after what happened with Thomas, but now I get to have a family with you. It is like a second chance." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Nora bloomed with it, her face glowing with health and happiness. Logan was attentive, but not overbearing, letting her tell him what she needed rather than trying to control her. It was a stark contrast to how Preston had treated her, and Nora appreciated it more than she could say. Their son was born on a warm day in October of 1877, almost exactly a year after Nora had hidden in Logan's barn. They named him Jacob Samuel, after Logan's father and the lawyer who had helped them. He was healthy and loud, with a shock of dark hair and his mother's green eyes. Logan held his son for the first time and felt emotions he had not known he was capable of. This tiny person was his and Nora's, a new life they had created together out of love. He looked at Nora, exhausted but smiling from the bed, and felt his heart overflow. "We made a pretty good team," she said. "The best," Logan agreed. Life settled into a new normal after Jacob's birth. The ranch continued to thrive, Logan's hard work paying off in increased herds and a solid reputation for quality horses. Nora had started teaching the children of neighboring ranch families, holding lessons twice a week at their house. She had found her calling, and Logan loved watching her with the children, seeing the joy teaching brought her. They added to their family over the years. A daughter named Rose came 2 years after Jacob, followed by another son, Daniel, 2 years after that. Each child was loved and wanted, and Logan made sure that Nora never felt overwhelmed or alone in raising them. He was an active father, involved in every aspect of his children's lives. On quiet evenings after the children were in bed, Logan and Nora would sit together on the porch they had expanded, watching the sun set over the Colorado plains. Sometimes they talked about the past, about how far they had come from that night when a terrified woman had hidden in his barn and begged him not to send her back. Other times they just sat in comfortable silence, content in each other's presence. "Do you ever regret it?" Nora asked one evening. "Taking me in, marrying me, all the trouble I brought into your life?" Logan looked at her, this woman who had become the center of his world, the mother of his children, his partner in every sense of the word. "Not for a single second. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Nora. You and our children, you are everything." Nora leaned against him, and Logan wrapped his arm around her. "I was so scared that night, hiding in your barn. I thought my life was over, that I was just running toward a different kind of end. I never imagined I would find this. Happiness, safety, love, a real home." "You were brave enough to run," Logan said. "You saved yourself, Nora. I just gave you a place to land." "We saved each other," Nora corrected softly. "You were alone, cut off from people because you were afraid to lose anyone else. I was trapped in a nightmare. We found each other at exactly the right time." Logan could not argue with that. They had found each other, two broken people who had somehow made each other whole. Years passed. Jacob grew into a fine young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Rose became a teacher like her mother, opening a small school in Denver. Daniel followed his own path, studying law and eventually becoming a lawyer who specialized in helping women escape abusive marriages. Logan liked to think that his son's calling was inspired by his parents' story, by the knowledge that sometimes the system needed people willing to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. Logan and Nora grew old together, their hair turning gray, their hands weathered from decades of ranch work. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, deepened by shared memories and the life they had built together. On their 30th wedding anniversary, their children and grandchildren gathered at the ranch for a celebration. There was food and music and laughter, the house full of life and joy. At one point, Jacob stood and raised his glass. "To my parents," he said, "who taught us that love is about respect, partnership, and standing up for each other no matter what. Thank you for showing us what a good marriage looks like." Logan looked at Nora across the room, and she smiled at him, that same smile that had captured his heart decades ago. They had come so far from that November night when she had hidden in his barn, terrified and alone. They had faced challenges, fought battles, built a life together from nothing but determination and love. As the evening wound down and their family departed, Logan and Nora found themselves alone on the porch once more, sitting in the same spot where they had spent countless evenings over the years. "Do you remember what you said to me that first night?" Logan asked. "When I found you in the barn?" "Please do not send me back," Nora said quietly. "I will never forget those words, or how scared I was when I said them." "I am glad I did not," Logan said. "Send you back, I mean. Best decision I ever made. Nora took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture that had become second nature over 30 years of marriage. Best decision I ever made was trusting you. You gave me back my life, Logan. You gave me everything. They sat together as the sun set over the ranch, two people who had found each other against all odds, who had built a love story out of fear and desperation and hard-won hope. They had faced the darkness together and come through it into the light. The night Nora had hidden in Logan's barn, she had been running toward an uncertain future, knowing only that she could not go back. She had not known that she was running toward home, toward love, toward the man who would stand by her through everything, who would fight for her and protect her and cherish her for the rest of their lives. And Logan, who had been living half a life, isolated and alone, had opened his barn door that night and found not just a woman in need of saving, but his future, his partner, the other half of his soul. They had saved each other, and in doing so, had created something beautiful, a family, a legacy, a love story that their children and grandchildren would tell for generations. As the stars came out over the Colorado plains, Logan pulled Nora closer, and she rested her head on his shoulder. They sat there in perfect contentment, two people who had found their forever in each other, who had turned a moment of desperation into a lifetime of love. Their story had begun with a plea in the darkness, "Please do not send me back." It had become a testament to the power of courage, of kindness, of love to transform lives. And it would continue, passed down through the generations, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the darkest moments, if we are brave enough to reach out and grab them. Logan and Nora Anderson lived the rest of their days on that ranch, surrounded by family, sustained by love, content in the knowledge that they had found in each other exactly what they both needed. They had taken a chance on love when it seemed impossible, and it had given them everything. And every night, as Logan closed the barn door, he remembered that November evening when he had found Nora hiding there, and he thanked whatever force in the universe had brought her to his door. Because she had not just asked him not to send her back that night, she had asked for a future, and he had given her one, and she had given him one in return. Together, they had created a life worth living, a love worth celebrating, a story worth telling. Their happily ever after had been hard won, but it was real, and it was beautiful, and it was forever.